Ezekiel, Ezekiel 7:19. They shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of the Lord Yahweh. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, because it is the stumbling block of their iniquity. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Kol Haloim La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachak Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered abroad. Akim and Akwat that's listening in. Yahweh Ratazah, Lord willing that the lesson is edifying. It's the brother Shawab Mwam back at you with another lesson and going into the title, all right, the nail in the coffin to Babylon, all right. And as we read Ezekiel 7:19, I'm gonna read in the NLT this time. They will throw their money in the streets, tossing it away like worthless trash. Their silver and gold won't save them on that day of the Lord Yahweh's anger. It will neither satisfy nor feed them, for their greed can only trip them up. All right. And why we're reading is because, see, America is about to collapse. That dollar is about to collapse. All right. I'm going to play this video. It's not even a video, actually. It's it's like a little meme article. All right. But it's, let me grab it real quick. And this is supposed to happen tomorrow. All right. It says breaking. China will dump 147 what is that, billion 147 billion in US treasuries tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. This will be the biggest sell-off in the last 20 years, and it's their last attempt to stop their local market from collapsing. All right. And see, this is what's going to happen. All right. America, all right, the market is about to crash. All right, which will make pretty much, the dollar collapse. You see, and it's funny because, see, China, all right, tries to mimic is the word I want to use. It tries to mimic the United States. So in order for them, Shalom, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Barakatah, in order for them to not have their economy collapse, China, right, they're going to dump 147 billion treasuries, all right? They're going to dump it, all right? And what it's going to cause is going to cause America's dollar to collapse, to go down even more. And it's already been going, every few months it goes down it goes down 10%, that dollar, all right? And it's pretty much worth nothing anymore, all right? This is why you see all these nations going to the BRICS nations. They don't want to have any trade, all right, with America anymore, all right? This is why you see that America is bringing up hyperinflation, in certain places, and it's going to get worse and worse because that dollar is worth nothing. So they have to find a way to make up for that money, you see. So, matter of fact, let me show you that part, right? So this is what it looks like. Okay. So it says again, breaking, China will dump 147 billion in US treasuries tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern time. All right. This will be the biggest sell-off in the last 20 years, and it's their last attempt to stop their local market from collapsing. All right. So now I was playing around the chat. All right. Let me grab it. Um, all right. China's treasury sell-off. Right. I put if China dumps 147 billion in treasuries, will that cause America to collapse, and will that cause the dollar bill to collapse also? Right? It says no. If China somehow dumped 147 trillion, billion, in U.S. Treasury securities, it would be extraordinarily disruptive. But that scenario isn't realistic because there aren't even that many treasury securities owned by China. All right. And I think it's saying that because I put trillion instead of billion. Right. But listen up. It says China's actual holdings are a small fraction of that amount. It says if a major foreign holder rapidly sold a very large amount of treasuries, likely effects would include treasury prices would fall and interest rates would rise. Borrowing costs for the United States government, businesses, and consumers could increase. Yeah, see that, and that's what's going to cause hyperinflation. Everything's just going to go completely up. Okay, you're gonna have tariffs on everything, right? And eventually, what's going on right now is that nobody's dealing with America. Nobody wants to deal with America anymore, right? It says the Federal Reserve could intervene by purchasing treasuries or using other tools to help stabilize markets. It says, as for the U.S. dollar, a large treasury sell-off could put downward pressure on it, but it would not automatically cause the dollar to collapse. The dollar's value depends on many factors, including the size of the U.S. economy, global demand for dollars, monetary policy, and investor confidence. A severe crisis could weaken the dollar significantly. And see, America's about to go into a great crisis, all right? Because ultimately it's all orchestrated by these elites, all right? That's pretty much why they're trying to, cause a global collapse. All right. And that's pretty much why these nations ain't dealing with America anyway. You see? So it says, but a complete collapse would require a much broader breakdown of the financial system, not just one country's treasury sales. So while a massive treasury sell-off could trigger a serious financial crisis, it does not necessarily mean America or the US dollar would collapse. All right. But see, we already know that it's going to trigger a serious financial crisis, man. Because once they dump those treasuries, all right, again, it's going to be the nail in the coffin for America because everything we get is from China. You see, we deal with China on a certain level of imports and exports, man. You see, so it's going to pretty much cause that collapse anyway. Right. And going back to what I was saying, China, all right, has always desired to be just like America. So it's even more of a reason why they're trying to dump those treasuries, all right, to cause the collapse of this place. Because they think they're next. China thinks that they're next in line to rule. All right, which nobody's next to rule except Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. But let's grab this real quick. This is 2nd Ezra 15 and 40 and 43, Salakia, 46. And it says, and thou, Asia, that are partaker of the hope of Babylon, and are the glory of her person, woe be unto thee, thou wretch. Yeah, so they're not even going to be next because woe is going to be onto them anyway, right? Which that means destruction. All right, it says, because thou hast made woe be unto thee, thou wretch, because thou hast made thyself like unto her, and has decked thy daughters in whoredom. Yeah, because let's just say if Yahweh Shai wasn't coming back, right? Which we know he is, but let's just say he wasn't coming back, right? If America was to collapse, China would probably be the next one in line to rule, just like in the same manner that America was ruling in, you see? Because again, China is like one of the number one when it comes to all these different trades, right? These trade routes, right? That's why it talks about in Revelations 18, it talks about how when Babylon falls, right, all these other nations are going to, you know, are going to weep basically. Why? Because America, that cash cow, is no longer in play, right? And it shows you how America is number one when it comes to the trading routes, to the trading source, right? That's how all these other nations have become abundant. All right, that this is how they have become rich, all right, through America. Okay, and America, the number one country that America uses for exports and imports is what? Is China. Everything here is made in China, made in China, made in China. Are there other places that we use too? Yeah, you got India, Taiwan, you know, all these different places, but everything mostly is made from China, you see? And around the world, China is the number one, also one of the number one, the top ones that are always trading with all these other nations, you see? So if America was to collapse, right, and Yahweh Shai wasn't coming back, right, then that's what will eventually happen. You will have China end up taking over, and it will be just like America will be, you see? But we know that Yahweh Shai is coming back, so there is no next for China, right? But let's read this real quick. Revelations 18:2, and it reads, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, it has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. All right, and this is eventually going to happen to America, you know, with thermonuclear missiles. Okay. It says, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. You see, they all have been made rich, all right, by dealing with America. It says, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues, which the plagues is what? All right, Zechariah 14:12. All right, this is the plague that shall come upon the earth, man, upon Babylon the Great. You see these missiles, right? It says, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yahweh has remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she has rewarded you, and double unto her according to her works, and the cup which she has filled to her double. How much she has glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. And for she saith in her heart, I sit as a queen and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. You see, and that's what you've been seeing from America, just eating off all these different nations, all right, and becoming rich constantly over and over and over again off all these different nations around her. You see, that's why she walks in that great pride, you know, thinking that she can never be taken down. All right, but we know that all empires come down to an end, you see, and this is going to be the greatest fall, all right, ever. And what you see Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah doing is he's destroying America from the inside out, you see, slowly but surely taking away the last breaths of America, you see, until it finally gets put out, right? So you have to have it fall from the infrastructures from the inward parts of the infrastructure onto the outside of it, you see, and that's what you see happening right now in America, right? So it says, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death, mourning, famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire. For strong is the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah who judgeth her, right? And that's the plagues that's coming to this place, the missiles. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing far off for the fear of her torment, saying, alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for 1 hour it is thy judgment come. right? And it says, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. All right. And that's what's going to happen, you know, even before the missiles hit, right? Because that's what you see happening now, that you see that people don't want to deal with America no more. Everybody's trying to stay away from America, especially with what's going on with this Iran war, right? Iran is basically putting a headlock on all these other nations and telling them, listen, you want to be able to pass through the Strait of Mandeb, you still want to be able to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, right? And be able to trade certain things. Well, then you have to leave away from America, leave America alone, you see? And this is talking about when actual thermonuclear missiles hit this place. All right. But before the missiles hit, you're going to see that none of these nations want to deal with her no more. Okay. So it says the merchandise of gold and silver, precious stones, and of pearls. And this is showing you that America is very wealthy and very strong through trade. Right, the merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and fine linen and purple, silk, scarlet, fine wood, and all manner vessels of ivory, and all manner vessels of precious wood, and of brass and iron and marble, cinnamon, odors, ointments, frankincense, wine, oil, fine flour, wheat, beasts, sheep, horses, and chariots, and slaves and souls of men. Yeah, all the way down to part of the trade system. They're out here selling souls of men. You know, they're out here selling slaves. Okay. Yeah, we're not, no longer in chains and shackles, right? But they still selling slaves out here. Why? Because you got the sex trafficking slave trade, right? People getting taken underground, children, women, men being sold onto other, elites, okay? And souls of men, right? It says, in the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all, okay? And as a matter of fact, if you think about it spiritually, it's pretty much like that now. The things that are fruitful to us, right? The things that were once natural, right? They're no longer natural. They're not coming into this country naturally anymore, man. All right, they're coming out here. They're nothing but GMOs, right? You getting meat that's from fucking labs and shit, 3D printed meat. Okay, so the things that were, that our soul lusted for at one point, yeah, all of that is gone. Okay, until, finally the missiles hit America, then you definitely not going to have anything coming out of here no more. Why? Because this place is going to be annihilated from New York to California. Okay, it says, the merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off, right? For the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet, decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, for in 1 hour so great riches come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? You see, so everybody gonna cry because there's gonna be no more money to be made. All right, the cash cow is finally broken down and brought down, you see, and that's gonna come in the time of these thermonuclear missiles. But like I said, before the missiles, these things are already low-key happening through the spirit, all right, because that's the Lord breaking America from the inside out, you see, not wanting anybody to deal with America no more. The allies no more to want no parts of America, you see. So now let's go back to Second Ezra 15 and 48, right? 47, it says, woe be unto thee. This is going back to China, right? Because thou hast made thyself like unto her, and has decked thy daughters in whoredom. And the reason I brought Revelations 18 is because of that. that has made thyself like unto her. Again, just using it as if, imagine if Yahushua wasn't coming back, right? And America was destroyed, who would be next to take over? It would pretty much be America. I mean, China coming in that same type of spirit. You know, they will be doing the same exact things that we just heard in Revelations 18 being read, right? All the way down to the souls of men and slaves. That would be the same thing that would be happening in America. I mean, in China. You see? So, because she has desired to be like her, right? It says, and has decked thy daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in thy lovers, which have always desired to commit whoredom with thee. Thou hast followed her, that is hated in all her works and inventions. Therefore, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will send plagues. See, showing you that ain't no China gonna be able to take over next. Why? Because the Lord said, I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to waste thy houses with destruction and death. You see? So they're not going to be able to be next. Okay? The only ones that's going to be next is Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, man. All right? It's going to be the elect. All right? And that's going to be established forever and ever. As the scriptures say, the saints shall take the kingdom forever and ever. All right? So, going back to, right, the dollar's going to collapse. And going back to this chat, what I had, right, it basically told you that it will be a serious financial crisis, all right, that will end up happening if China was to dump those treasuries. And here it is. That's exactly what's about to happen. A serious financial crisis, right? That's what would eventually bring us back to going through the Great Depression 2.0, right? So then I asked, what would it take to make the dollar collapse completely to be worth nothing? It says, for a currency like the US dollar to become worth essentially nothing, it would typically require several extreme events happening together over time, not just one event. And hey, there's going to be many events that's going to happen here in Babylon the Great. There's going to be many black swan events that are suddenly going to happen. All right. Again, orchestrated by your elites. Okay. Because in order for them to bring in the new world order, they have to collapse the old world order. Right. So it says examples of conditions that have caused currencies in other countries to become nearly worthless include hyperinflation. Right. We're going to see that in here. We've already seen low key. All right. Hyperinflation in different at different times. All right. Since 2020. All right. And they keep playing back and forth with it. They'll bring up prices and they bring them down and they bring them up higher and they bring them down. Right. Until this place completely collapses. That's where you're really going to see like the hardest hyperinflation that you've ever seen, where no one's going to be able to afford any of these things, man. That's why you're going to have the middle class pretty much become the new poor, right? Because the scriptures say he calls it all both small and great, rich and poor, right? Showing you that there's no middle class. So the middle class will become the poor. The poor that was already the poor, they're pretty much going to do what? They're going to end up dying off, man. They're not going to be able to afford any of those things. They were already in the process of not being able to afford, you see? So the middle class will become the poor, right? And then the rich is just going to become richer. They're not going to allow anybody to be on the same level as them because the rich is the elites, the 1% that rule the world, right? So hyperinflation, it says the government creates enormous amounts of money for beyond what the economy produces, causing prices to rise uncontrollably, all right? Orchestrated. It says complete loss of confidence. People, businesses stop accepting the currency because they expect it to lose value rapidly. Yeah. And see, America's already losing its confidence. People in America's losing the confidence. That's why you have the sedition among men that's about to play out very heavy, because they see that America's collapsing, that it's falling, that everything here is worth nothing. You see? So eventually it will bring in what? Civil war. And that's what, as a matter of fact, I believe it says that. Yeah. Going down a little bit, right? It says government or institutional collapse. The state loses the ability to collect taxes, enforces laws, or maintain basic services. Yeah. And look at the laws that are being enforced now. All right. You got draconian laws being enforced. You see? So that's making it even worse, right? Then it says severe economic breakdown, production, trade, and the banking system fail on a large scale. Yeah. Production trade is going to fail because none of these nations are messing with America anymore. You see? Because the tariffs are too high. Because it's not worth for them to continue to deal with America and have their economy collapse at risk, you know, their economy's at risk. You see? So they're going to think about saving their own rather than to save America, right? It says political instability or prolonged conflict, civil war, or other major disruptions can accelerate a currency's collapse. You see? And are we not about to enter into civil war? Is that not what they're trying to push all around America right now? Between race wars, you know, between the division between the people here in Babylon the Great, okay? The sedition among men, right? That's what's going to cause that civil war. Going back to what I just said, all right? And the part where it says complete loss of confidence, people and businesses stop accepting the currency because they expect it to lose value rapidly, right? So continuing on, it says examples include the currencies of Weimar Germany during the early 1920s and Zimbabwe during the late 2000s, where hyperinflation rendered money nearly worthless. For the US dollar reaching a value of nothing would likely require an extraordinary combination of economic collapse, political instability, and sustained loss of domestic and international confidence. So look at those three, right? An economic collapse, which is already set for it, right? Political instability, right? People have lost interest in their government, have realized that the government is lying, right? And they don't even care about their government no more, which causes that sedition among men, right? And a sustained loss of domestic and international confidence. Yeah, nobody internationally wants to deal with America no more. They don't feel safe dealing with America no more, right? They don't even want to continue to make money for America no more, okay? Is it still happening? Yeah, here and there, yeah. Because it's almost like they're so used to the trade. All right, you have to keep the flow of things going. But little by little, all right, each and one of these nations are falling back off of the American dollar and going to what? Going to the BRICS nation. Right? So it says economists generally consider that to be a very low probability scenario because the United States has a large, diversified economy, independent institutions, and the dollar remains the world's primary reserve currency. Yeah, see, that's why they're still kind of messing with America, because it's still the primary source. All right? But eventually, everybody will wean off of it, right? It says, that said, it says, and the dollar remains the world's primary reserve currency. That said, the dollar can and does fluctuate in value over time. Yeah, and that's what you've been seeing. The dollar, you know, going up and down, fluctuating basically, you know. And every time, you know, something happens, well, then it loses 10% of its value and continues to lose 10% of its value till something big like that, like what's about to happen with China happens, then it loses even more value, right? Now, let's say another country that drops treasuries like that deals with America does the same thing. Well, then that's going to drop it even quicker, right? It says, that said, that the dollar can and does fluctuate in value over time, and it can lose purchasing power through inflation without becoming worthless. Okay, but we know that the dollar, all right, according to scripture, is going to become worthless. We know that America, Babylon the Great, all right, is going to become nothing, as it tells you in Isaiah right? 19. Uh, this is Isaiah 19, and let's take it from 3, right? It says, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. Point is, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail. All right. The plans of America, Babylon the Great, all right, every single one of them are going to fail. Right? You're gonna lose jobs out here, right? When you go down to 15, it tells you that, right? It says, neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or the tail, branch or rush may do. You see, so there's gonna be no work here in Babylon the Great. Okay, it tells you that also in Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, verse 3, right? As a matter of fact, let's go to that real quick. 12 and 3, and it reads, in that day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few. See, meaning what? Employment. And those that look out of the windows be darkened, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low. Again, life opportunities, right? Jobs, employment is low. And he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. Also, when they shall be afraid of that which is high, and fears shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish, and the grasshopper shall be a burden, and desire shall fail. You see, desire is going to fall. Desire is going to fail. You see, and that goes basically to what we was reading. All right. When it read in the chat, and it said, where did it say? Let me see. Where was it? Complete loss of confidence. People and businesses stop accepting the currency because they expect it to lose value rapidly. See, that's desire failing right there. Desire is going to fail. People going to realize, like, man, I'm doing this shit for no reason. We ain't never going to get ahead. We can't, because every time we try to get ahead, this shit increases more. This place collapses, falls even more, and fails even more and more. You see? So desire shall fail. Okay? Pretty much bringing this place to civil war, bringing, all right, Babylon the Great to sit down in the dust, right? As it tells you, Isaiah. No shit. Isaiah 47 and 1, and it says, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Yeah, what's the dust? Right? The confusion. Right? Because America is already, Babylon the Great is already confusion. So in that same confusion that they cause is the same confusion that they're going to sit down in the dust with. Right? It's the same thing that's going, pretty much all the confusion that they've created, they're going to get, America's going to get hit with total confusion. Because everybody's going to look at America like, wow, I thought this was that great city. I thought this was the land of opportunity, right? This was the place to make all this money. This was the place for you to be prosperous, you see? But it's not anymore, right? Hey, shalom, Sister Yahweh Shemel Shabarakatah, unto you, right? So desire will fail, okay? And this place will sit down in the dust, right? O virgin daughter of Babylon, sit in the ground. There is no throne, or daughter, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Yeah, you're not going to be that powerhouse no more, man. Okay? It says, take the millstones and grind meal, or uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover that the thigh, pass over the rivers. All right? Basically what? Expose yourself. All right? That's what you're seeing happening right now. America being exposed from all different types of angles. All right. And which is ultimately Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai exposing that this place is going to collapse. You see, if you can't see the collapse of this place, is because you're going to collapse with it. All right. So because she's being referred to as a whore, right? A virgin at that. OK. Because a virgin means someone that hasn't been touched, right? So America hasn't been touched because it's been ruling so long. All right. But she's the whore because she is the one that deals with all these different nations at once, right? Has all their different philosophies, allowing all their different philosophies and their ways to come here in Babylon the Great, right? America making money off of all these different nations, all right, giving the wine and fornication, right? As the scriptures say. It says, thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yeah, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. As for our Redeemer, the Lord Yahweh of hosts is his name, and the Holy One of Israel, right? It says, sit thou silent and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called that lady of kingdoms. Yeah. All right. So she's being to referred as to the Chaldeans, the lady of the Chaldeans, right? Because they were into witchcrafts and sorceries, right? Just like America is involved with witchcrafts and sorceries, right? It says, I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance, right? And the people are here in Babylon the Great, right? That's why the Lord said, in the same place where I have said that you are not my people is the same place where I will say they are my people. Okay. I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance and given them, and thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke. And thou said, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thine heart, neither did remember the latter end of it. Yeah. See, they didn't think that there was going to be consequences, all right, for doing what, you know, they had been doing all this time, right? It says, therefore, hear now this, thou that are given into pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and the widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it has perverted thee. And thou said that in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. Therefore shall evil come upon thee. Thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee. Thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. You see, and that's what's going to eventually happen. This place is going to collapse first, right? Be brought to confusion, be brought to that dust, and then eventually it's just going to be annihilated. You see, because it's almost like it's almost like when you playing I don't even want to use that analogy, but it's funny. That's what just popped up in my head. If you ever played the game Mortal Kombat, right? when you fighting with the two characters, right? They're fighting against each other, and one of the characters hits him good enough, he gets dazed out, right? And once he gets dazed out, it gives you the opportunity to basically finish him. You see, you beat him up even more, and then it's the finishing move. So that's how pretty much America is, man. America is being collapsed, being thrown into the dust, which is the confusion. Head is all spinning, all right? And now that it's confused, now is the time to finish America, you see? And that's what's going to happen. You know, that's when the Lord is going to come and rain the missiles upon America while it's dazed, while it's confused, you see? And that's what we patiently wait for, man. We're waiting. We're actually praying for this place to be completely completely destroyed, man. Because here we have no continuing city. You see, better is the end of a thing than the beginning. We rather see the end of this place. We rather see the death of America, right, than to continually live in continual sickness here in Babylon the Great and continually live a bitter life. You see, so there's only one route for America, all right, and that's what is the route of destruction, the root of destruction. So by you seeing what's about to happen with these treasuries being dumped, that's going to put the nail in the coffin of Babylon, man, because that's their main source of trading, man. You see? So all we could do is just watch and continue to watch this place collapse, right? And continue to hope that the Lord come back with a speedy riddance, right? And destroys this place faster than we think. And best believe he is. He's on that wave right now. You see? The Lord is turning this place up heavy. Okay? Coming into this new year, if we even make it to that new year, Lord willing, we don't. But we got to be, you know, reasonable with how everything is playing out, right? If we come into this new year, 2027 is going to be fucking ridiculous, man. It's just going to be nothing but tears and agony in that day, man, in that year. Okay? Because what you're seeing in 2026 is the new world order being established, being brought to you. You know, you're seeing everything collapse to bring in this new world order. So by 2027, we're in full blast with the new world order. You see, that's why they're about to roll out microchips or IDs, whatever. I say microchips. All right, they're gonna roll out these microchips. Jacob's trouble's about to happen. They're about to hit a great reset on these buttons, right? And everything's about to be, you know, pretty much the power's gonna go out in this place, man. You see? And we're already in the midst of World War III. World War III is intensified on a whole nother level. You see, so everything is working according to Bible prophecy. Everything is working the way it's supposed to. All right. So that's pretty much the point. Just wanted to touch up on that. All right. Lord willing, it wasn't confusing. Lord willing, it wasn't, you know, all over the place. But hey, it's all through the spirit, you know. So Lord willing that the lesson was edified. So with that being said, Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Kol Haloim La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakat Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect that scattered abroad, the Akim and the Akwat that was listening in. Yahweh Ratazah, Lord willing, that the lesson was edifying. To the next one, Shalom. Keep fighting the good fight of faith, enduring as good soldiers of Yahweh Shai. You sisters continue to learn in silence, watching the true men of the Lord. All right, and hey, stay prayed up as always. You know, just watch, pull out the spiritual popcorn and watch the Lord do his works and collapse this place down to the ground as it should be. You see, it deserves every single bit of destruction that's about to come to this place. Shalom, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shah, Barakatah.